Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellow Cat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. What is your story when you fired someone or someone was fired because of you? Part 8. This server at my restaurant was so bad that I had to fire her. I'm not sure what else to say about her. Remember that she worked for us for so long because we were short-staffed. At first, it irritated me that every time I tried to train her or give her advice, she would watch or listen as if she were bored to tears and already knew everything. When I asked her if she was listening or if she had any questions, she would only say one word in response. Then I saw that she was clearly not following the rules. She would say that I should have told her the rules in the first place when I brought these things to her attention, which was crazy. The last time we had a fight was 2 weeks after beginning her job. At work, I told her she should change her shorts at home and never wear those shorts again because they were too short. She said I was to blame again because I didn't tell her about the dress code. We had a fight and I basically told her she was either deaf or lying. After that, she broke down and told me she couldn't afford new clothes. She only had jeans, which were against the dress code, and black work pants for her other job. She said, "Oh, I have to wash them every day," when asked about it. Then you should get more detergent. What's the matter? Change it home now. She then told me she doesn't have a car, doesn't have a place to live other than couch surfing, and has been living out of trash bags she packs around with her. She has no money for anything. However, I'm leaving tomorrow for a week-long trip with this friend of mine who pays for everything. She'll get me new clothes. Even though I knew she was gone for a week, 2 weeks after starting a new job, I had no idea it was a vacation. What the H is a vacation? Also, what? That night, she asked if she could leave early to have dinner with some friends before going on vacation. I told her fine to get her out of my hair. I got this by myself. She stayed there for another 30 minutes until her friend showed up, leaving 10 minutes before the store closed. My host looked at me like, "This is a joke, right?" as they sat down. I dropped the checks at the end of this 40-minute farewell dinner. Surprise, all but 2 of them put down their cards right away. You can guess who was in that guilty group. When I went back to get the signed receipts, there were no longer any receipt books to be found. The best worker I had was sitting right next to the checks when I looked down at her. The checks were on her A. I got up from the table, went straight to the bar, and called a coworker to join me for a drink and watch this. She walked in quickly because she didn't like this girl. We drank until we heard them leave. The last straw was about to fall and she texted me to say that her vacation was running late and she wouldn't be back for another 5 days. Her trip was almost over. Late? She would have to miss 3 shifts because of this. This crap is so bad that I couldn't even try. You stay on vacation for as long as you want, I told them. Your job is no longer open. This started a texting war between her and me about why she was fired and how I'm a bad person and boss for not giving her instructions and then firing her for it. She also said that the next person I hire will be just like her, deserving a chance to prove excellence. I couldn't help but laugh the whole time and sent her advice on how to be a better restaurant worker. My manager from H initially gave off the impression of being a very kind and compassionate woman. I quickly came to the conclusion that she was a complete novice at her job and had managed to climb up the ranks by sheer force of will. Just 3 of us had the authority to initiate, terminate, and examine transactions. Normally, I arrive at the store early to take in shipments in the morning. My manager would count the registers 30 minutes before the store opened, right before opening time. Regretfully, our store was all about doing math. For each transaction, we would receive a percentage in exchange for personal phone numbers. My job was to go through all of that week's receipts, identify the person or people with the fewest numbers obtained, and have a conversation with them if it was less than 70%. Not what I wanted to do, but I wanted to continue working. I came in on a Saturday only to do some number crunching because the district manager had called to let us know that our percentage was lower than usual. When I was going through all those bad boys, I noticed a receipt for a sizable employee return. She hardly had enough money to buy diapers, let alone these things, so I found it strange. I responded that she might have returned them due to buyer's remorse. We'll give her a call. Jane. I arrived the following day to close the store with Jane. As I was closing out the registers, I noticed a slip of paper with the words, "I owe $40. I raised it and inquired with Jane about it. "Oh, management from H took that out on Monday to buy cleaning supplies for the store, but she'll put it back on Friday," the woman uttered. She advised counting it like money, even though she hasn't returned the cleaning supplies or the cash. For situations like this, we had a paid-out system in place. Then it dawned on me. Our manager from H never liked those customers, but they always left with a lot of merchandise, even though their numbers never increased for the day. I'm starting to get IOUs. With curiosity, I mentioned Jane's comeback. She told me that she knew I didn't have any money and that she wouldn't have bought something so big in the first place, giving me the look that suggested I was crazy. I pocketed the IOU and turned in the $40 that was left in the register. I then led Jane to the rear and displayed the return receipt to her. It was evident that our manager from H had carried out the transaction. I suggested that we call HR, but she was afraid that if we did, they wouldn't take any action. I threatened to call her, and if they chose not to take action, our manager from H would take it out on me rather than on her. After I called HR, the manager from H didn't show up for her shift the following day. Instead, a manager from a different store came to assist. When the district manager arrived, she thanked me for maintaining the store's integrity, then brought in by the manager from H to retrieve her possessions. She was wearing dark sunglasses inside, and tears are visible on her face around her glasses. I'm stuck with the woman I assisted in getting fired because the district manager stopped by the back to speak with our temporary manager. She said she didn't do anything improper and was in disbelief that this was taking place. I couldn't let her believe she was the victim because I was shocked by her denial. I said, "You got fired because I reported you for stealing," looking directly into her eyes. "Give me your sob tale, please. I won't be moved by it." She was screaming at me from the other side of the cash register and on fire 2 seconds later. Her nose was rupturing and her face was red, calling me a liar and yelling things like, "You don't know what you're talking about," while the ex-manager from H was screaming that we had no proof and that I must have had a grudge against her. The district manager rushed outside to calm her down and get her out. I could prove what I had discovered, which I gave to the shrink woman afterwards. I was asked afterwards to explain her outburst. They accepted the fact that I had told manager from H the truth after I had told them the truth. Do you have any wild and wacky HOA stories to share? Part 8. There will be no wild and wacky stories. Rather, there will be petty gestures of passive aggression and small insults. The following is a progression of insults that are part of a single thread. 1. The neighboring neighborhood was still in the process of being built when we moved in. An attempt was made by the HOA to pick up mailboxes. I believe that only one person was truly concerned about the situation. As a matter of fact, they went to the extent of renting a number of more upscale mailbox options and demonstrating them in their driveway. The next step was for them to go door to door and inform everyone that they should come check it out. After that, they held a vote in a more informal setting and, I believe, petitioned the HOA. They were victorious and we were given an estimate for mailboxes that were more expensive. I suppose that's democracy in action. 2. A letter from an unknown sender was placed in the opulent mailbox of one of our neighbors stating that they should not be parking their vehicle in the driveway. For all intents and purposes, we all have 3-car garages that we ought to be making use of. They did not have enough space for the car because it was a work vehicle. For the purpose of explaining their situation and stating that it does not violate the bylaws, they sent out an email to everyone in the neighborhood. They did not receive any response. 3. After more than 5 years have passed, the bylaws are being revised to state that there are no cars allowed in driveways and that work vehicles are not permitted to be outside at any time. That's right. There are also some ridiculous things in there, such as the fact that you're not allowed to work on your car in your own driveway without first receiving permission. At this point, the new bylaws have not been put to a vote. Concerned homeowners wrote a letter in which they did not reveal their identity and mailed it to everyone's fancy mailbox. The letter was a protest against the new bylaws and contained a number of completely reasonable arguments. If you have children who are of driving age living with you, for example, it might be impossible to park all of your cars inside the house. There'll be a vote in a couple of weeks. To tell you the truth, I'm hoping that the fancy mailbox war will result in a letter that is completely anonymous. It seems that there are some people who simply want to watch the world burn. There was a time when the entrance to my neighborhood was a little bit run down. It was not unattractive, but it appeared to be out of date. Because all of our neighbors were expressing their desire to have it redone, the president of our homeowners association decided to take matters into his own hands. Although I was too young to remember the specifics of how he managed to get away with it, the guy who designed our new front entrance made sure that it was a perfect match for his house. The lettering was identical to the font used for the numbers on his mailbox, and the colors were all identical to those of his house. It's possible that if the guy had a house that looked decent, it would not have been such a big deal. However, the house turned out to be absolutely repulsive. Nothing in my entire life has ever been so ostentatious as this. The appearance of it was similar to that of a heap of boulders, as if it were something taken directly from the Flintstones. The town made fun of our neighborhood, which became the center of attention. Because I lived in that neighborhood, my teachers at school would make fun of me in a very literal sense. Because of this, the entire board was ultimately removed from their positions, and our front entrance was promptly redesigned. I hate HOAs that are too strict. About 13 years ago, my parents moved to the neighborhood where they are now. There wasn't an HOA, or if there was one, the rules were pretty simple. For example, no satellite dishes in the front of the house, or no cars parked in front if the driveway's empty, were some of the ridiculously strict new HOA rules we started getting in the mail about 3 or 4 years ago. Other rules included trash cans must be out on the curb at a certain time and must be taken back in by a certain time. It looks like people don't have to work to be so careful about the trash cans on the curbs. Sometimes, the city came by and told us our grass was too long. We didn't need to worry, though, because someone with a lot of free time had called the city to complain about all our neighbors. Then the block parties and home improvements began. Every season, the HOA started having these block parties and always hired the same vendors. The signs in the neighborhood were changed one year, and I have to say that the new ones looked better than the old ones. It was called the common area because they added a kind of paved area at the garage door. Then they changed the signing again early this year. The font is awful and doesn't match the neighborhood's theme at all. They also put in some awful RGB LED lighting. Then they started building on the common area. This is not in the neighborhood itself. It's at the entrance just outside of the neighborhood, next to a popular running trail in town. Some people in the neighborhood didn't like the recent changes or the fact that they were made with HOA money and without first asking the homeowners what they thought. Then there was the lawsuit. Someone put in a court order against the HOA saying that the funds were being stolen. People said that the recent renovations weren't necessary, and it turned out that the president of the HOA was planning to build rows of barbecue pits in the common area for some crazy reason. There were already slabs of concrete there to start the project. A lot of people also said the block parties were too much and that the HOA president kept inviting all of his family members. On the Nextdoor app, he went on and on about how he fixed up the HOA from the terrible state it was in before and other things. On the Nextdoor app, he also quit and said he was giving the HOA to a company so we could all go F ourselves or something. After about a week, he just packed up and moved. Turns out that the treasurer didn't even own a home. He was living with his cousin or something. Also, he lost the HOA checkbook in some way. It's all pretty sketchy. The HOA's been put on hold for now, and the homeowners are planning to start a new one once all the legal stuff is over. Almost everyone agrees that it'll be very small, mostly just cutting the grass in the common areas and other small tasks. No more parties or home improvements. If you want to watch the part 7, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for your support.